All right, so welcome to Couch Time with Cataya, and today we have Stephan. This is my fourth Couch Time with Cataya, and doing what I love to do, which is decoding one's human blueprint and bringing more clarity into one's human life walk and what one is here and up to in this lifetime. So Stephan and I just met actually recently through mutual friends, and right away with the work that you do, I was very drawn to jump in and actually look at your chart. And as soon as I want to look at someone's chart, I just want to dive in and see and talk about what what your soul is up to here. So I'll let you introduce yourself, Stephan.
All right, Katya, thank you so much. Appreciate your time with this and the invitation. My name is Stephan, the CEO of Emotional Soul Healing. And I got involved with emotional soul healing or my own business. After about 13 years ago, I had a spiritual experience. I left here, went through the pillar of light. I came back and I'm like, they didn't teach me this anywhere. So I physically went to the universe, and it was scary at the time. It was really scary. And growing up from an experience from childhood, having a tough time talking or expressing, everything shuffled up or everything got jammed here in the throat chakra. And from not expressing, it affected the heart chakra. And with people like yourself there, in from the heart chakra, I blew this thing into, I don't know, like a billion plus pieces. The energy went all over into the universe. And I remember at the time pausing over it, I'm going, how on earth am I going to fix this? So what I was working towards being a commercial pilot. I wanted to fly for a couple of years down in Toronto. And it was in between that time, after having various jobs and working in the oil and gas sector, spoke to a couple of mediums. I had certain experiences where I was seeing things paranormal and such. And my guides got me in touch with a gentleman in Vancouver named Joseph P. Gabi. From there, I got introduced to blueprint and numerology. His numerology specializes in those of the old souls. So the old souls are the old master numbers. So they can be old souls with a destiny 8 or 9. And for the old master numbers, the 11-2, the 22-4, and the 33-6. It's the category I fall in. And with the parents with the 11-2, 33-6, and the 44-8 vibration. These are not easy type of energies to digest or handle or comprehend. However, the energies are intense. And through him, because we both shared the same energy at the same depth, he was able to extend his hand out. I was able to hold on to it, and I just worked my butt off with the universe with a lot of blind trust. I quit my 2 jobs. I stepped into this. Vancouver has been an interesting ride, and it really allowed me to rebuild my entire inner foundation from the ground up, and it allowed me to start expressing truthfully with who I am. For those that are familiar with the map of consciousness from Dr. David Hawkins, it became very, very evident for me that the bottom feelings, shame, guilt, grief, feelings like this, desire, anger was another one. You cannot simply override these feelings or emotions. If it's in the subconscious, and normally from the soul agreement perspective, by the time the soul agreement experience usually happens between the ages of 5 to 9. That's when all the programming happens, whether they are the real parents, adopted parents, for whatever it is. For the first 9 years, for those that are born here, all that energy sits inside of the child. That becomes the foundation. Now, there is no blame. There's nothing towards my mom and dad or any of it, because technically they didn't know any better. They did things to the best of their ability. When we come here, or I should say when we volunteer coming into this spiritual plane, it's not the easiest place. And the moment there's interference coming from the family, culture, or religion, is where it shuts us down. Now somewhere, we have some back feet here, I'm not sure what it is. From the experiences, I had an experience where at the age of seven, just under the age of 8, I had an experience where I didn't know how to respond back to someone within the family. And it was months after that, I used to walk up and down through the basement, wondering, am I going to say this? Am I going to say that? How am I going to express well to this or that? And it was all the inside dialogue that I kept up here and I didn't express. Because it didn't express energy, thoughts, emotions, it's energy. It has to express itself physically in the body sometime. And when this finally blew, meaning literally the energy inside, it took me from here into the spiritual plane, and I came back, and I'm like, well, now I'm in the real game of life. So that was a bit of an introduction there. And after meeting Joseph, I took things seriously and quit, as I said, quit both my jobs here. Started off at the Vancouver Club, eventually won bartending in Yaletown. That was a phenomenal, that was an eye-opening experience. And then from there, I got introduced to the spiritual side of things, being energetically protected, dealing with the light and the dark, entity attacks, and all the good stuff that comes with it. And I don't say it lightly or just for the sake of saying it, it shocked me on so many levels. It was just the will to live and finding out that there's people on the other side that are all watching us. And I made a decision here in this lifetime from all the different lifetimes, like in my dad's case, in this lifetime, he had the power, and I was the one under it. And in the other past lifetimes, I would be the one with the power, or the one with the control, and somebody else would feel the repercussions of it. With the right guidance from Joseph, it became very clear for me to energetically, or with all the emotional cords, to go in there and simply cut and unplug the cords, cut it with peace, compassion, and universal love, and obviously a tremendous amount of trust with the universe for this. And I made a decision. If I fail with this, I fail. I can always go back to my job as a pilot. I made a conscious effort or two vows with this. The first one was getting in connection with my inner child, with my guides, with my soul power. And the next one was now working with my soul and with the universe, and now assisting others with this.
And that's
So
what I would say right away. Looking at your chart, and what I
yeah,
chose to do is I chose to pull up both what's your Rashi chart, which is the chart that our soul comes into the original blueprint. But right away I was drawn and I was called to look at your D9, which is the Namamsha chart. So I can reference right away.
please.
It's so beautiful to hear someone's journey and someone's story, and then to be able to see right away how these things dovetail together. So basically around 35, approximately our mid 30s, we
Yes.
move into this other chart. And this chart is where our soul's gone through the certain lessons, the certain teachings it's meant to go through within the first sequence, within the first, starting years. And then at mid 30, we've moved through a lot of those karmic imprints. And then we're here to really transform into an even richer aspect of who we are here to be in this life. And yeah, right away, I was like, okay, this totally makes sense, because the most unbounded nakshatra. So I usually look at nakshatras, which are the lunar mansions, which bring in the impressions and the influences into the planets. And from the planets, it basically forms our personality, and it forms our life walk and what we're here to really experience. And the first piece that my eye went to right away is seeing Jupiter. So Jupiter is here to bring us our wisdom teaching. It's very expansive. It's here to really help us to really drop into knowledge and understanding beyond the place of the perspective that we've been able to grasp at that certain point in time, and to really move us into the best version of ourselves from that higher place of knowledge and wisdom. And yours is sitting in the 12th house, which the 12th house is all about experiences beyond the human realm. It is the place of moksha. So it's the place where our soul is going to focus on wanting to complete in this lifetime, or understand things beyond the 3D experience that we have, and going into things in the other planes of existence. And so your Jupiter is sitting in what's called Purva Bhadrapada, which is the most expansive of nakshatras, which means it can take things from darkness to light, or light to darkness, which makes sense that your reference, which most of us that walk a spiritual path and get called to the spiritual path go through, and having to do a lot of shadow work, a lot of really diving into, we have a lot of usually dark nights of the soul. Which is, it's either going to crack you open and expand you, or it's going to take you down. So usually the aspect of getting taken down is not a choice, but we have to really be able to navigate through the hard stuff and really do the shadow work. And so with having Purva Bhadrapada in the 12th house, Basically what that does is it makes you have to go into the level of expansion that has zero boundaries to it. So doing the type of work that you're doing and going into more of the Akashic record understandings, going into past lives, going into the dovetail of understanding a deeper soul root level of what a soul is here to go through. And as you said, which we referenced in conversation yesterday, some people, their bandwidth is going to be, it's only going to go so far, and it's not good, bad, right, or wrong, but it's just that's how far their soul is going to work on things in this lifetime. Where other people that have, higher, or not even the word higher, but very specific soul numbers that are here to go into really expansive places of being, their bandwidth is going to be really, really extensive.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's almost actually loving and kind to not try to expect someone who's in this type of a bandwidth that this is the soul lessons they're here to move through. This is
Yes.
what they're here to focus on. We just want to let them do what they're here to do and not try to go into these extra, sensory experiences beyond the 3D realm. It's not actually kind. It's not what their soul is here to learn or to gravitate towards. We're all going through different stages of evolution and growth, different lifetimes coming here. So being an older soul, it makes sense you're going to be drawn to people that are here to do older soul work. And also what I hear as well is ground some of these experiences so people can move away from probably the judgmental aspects that people that are in this type of a bandwidth can
Yeah.
understand, to be able to actually give them more perspective and understanding around the depth of what their soul path is. And having, usually people that have a lot of 12th house influences will have a lot of extra sensory experiences. So whether it be experiences of people that have crossed over, being able to communicate, go into other realms. I know a client of mine, has had over 100 out of body lucid experiences, what it looks like to be able to have conversations and to go into these places and to hold space to be able to help people to really understand what their deeper soul path is. So right away, that piece stood out immediately. I was like, okay, you're here to really help people to anchor. And also your Mercury, which I'm not surprised because Mercury, that being held back earlier in life, Mercury in your D9 chart is actually in Pushya. And what that means is that you're here to give of yourself. You're here to, the visual is basically like a cow's udder, which is like consistently giving the nourishment to others, giving that ability to really support others on a very, very, very deep level, not just a surface level, but the depth of the level of being able to let them be nourished in the way that they probably haven't been. And a lot of people, they can feel like they're usually the lone wolves, they're usually the out of the box people, they're usually the outcasts or get outcasted. So getting that soul recognition to be able to understand the root of who they are and that they're here to walk a very, independent and very unique path is going to be very, very helpful. So bringing that nourishment through communication, through being able to give that truth to them that they're probably been seeking their whole life is going to be so nourishing for them on such a deep, deep level. And then also, it's interesting because where you flourish, so where we flourish or where the mind flourishes, so the moon represents mind, mother, it represents emotions. It's sitting in the 11th house, which is the house of hopes, wishes, and dreams. And it's sitting in Satyabhisha. And so right away, and it's also sitting in Aquarius. And I'm looking at your sidereal chart, I'm looking at your Eastern chart. So looking at this component, whenever we see anything that's related to Aquarius focuses, it's always global. It's always big world thinking. It's always thinking about um, people outside of just your small, a small reference point of like,
Yes.
a core people. It's the bigger picture. It's looking at, how do I help people globally? How do I help people in the best way I can, which is a very expansive way. And the fact that since Satyabhisha is all about, it's basically the 1,000 healers. So it's being able to come in from a place of being able to have a lot of healing perspectives and places and modalities that you're able to dovetail into. Which my perception right away when I see this is you probably won't stop at where you're already at. You're probably going to continue to bring more tools into your tool belt. You're going to continually seek out more information, more expansion, more ways to help people. And it's in your house of hopes, wishes, and dreams, which means that the more you apply the healing abilities and the more you make yourself accessible, the more you're going to flourish in your life. That's the key point. That's the dovetail point. Now, our D10 chart brings in components around our vocation. I haven't looked at your D10 chart. I just went right into your D9. But this is basically like your soul journey from mid-30s onward. And even to like, you know, through some face analysis, I can see that you like to keep things like looking at some of the key stability points in your construction,
Yes.
is that you have a wider jaw point, which means that you're going to have the ability to step into things that are uncomfortable for a lot of people. You're not going to hold back. You have that ability to really have strength in opposition, strength in discomfort, and to continue to own your truth. And just looking at the structure of your eyebrow as well too, the way it's formulated is you know how to stay even keel. So not a lot of things are going to come in and like throw you off of your balance point. Like you like to function in a way where you have a good stable baseline. I always like to look like, you know, we get to know people usually over a 3-month period of time is a good time frame to really get to know who somebody is. Your stable, your baseline is going to be more stable. You're not going to, although a lot of your experiences are going to be very expansive in nature, your
Yes.
inner state is very stable. So you're always going to bring that forward with the people that you work with, or the information that you bring forward. Is it's not going to, you know, you're not going to get thrown around so much by life's occurrences, which is really good, because especially when you start to dovetail into the spiritual realms and you start to go into a lot of these places, it can be very difficult sometimes to really continue to hold a stable base. And you're going to be able to do that. Your foundation is going to be very strong.
You're right about that, because I will be honest, it is gutsy doing this.
Mm-hmm.
and and since 2012, with the 5D stepping into this consciousness here, onto this on Mother Gaia here, and with the power being held and with the feminine energy, there's a lot of changes. There's a lot of transitioning. 2021, there was a massive tsunami energy coming in, and it's really to shake people up. And for this year, 2022, is about personal responsibility. The 2 is dealing with that oversensitivity, being over emotional. You got February coming up. It's the second month. The second and other days with the 2 vibration, it's going to bring out centuries worth of these emotions and such. And it's important. I can't emphasize how important it is with that foundation. One can go very, very high. I'll get there as I continue working with the map of consciousness. I just found it from the soul's perspective, it cannot release any of the emotional baggage until somebody's physically here and physically doing the work and physically being the example, and then grudgingly or begrudgingly, or saying with the will of it, I accept with whatever happened, and being at peace with it, and then cleaning everything up. And you're right. It's I've been very fortunate holding space for others, especially with the master numbers, because there's so much that comes out. There is an unbelievable amount that comes out, and you think, oh my God, I'm done here. And then they look behind them, or 2 months later, there's more stuff coming out. Thankfully, in the 5D, it's much easier. You just go in there, you cut them, unplug the cords. Like my Akashic records in the 3D, it's all been wiped out, everything. And I haven't even tapped much into it, other than with certain key areas. It was mostly just dealing with this lifetime. How well is me? How well am I expressing? How good is my leadership? How well is my foundation? And if one can master the basics and certain things, we're all spiritual beings. It's I've learned something. I wanted to be distracted by something, and the soul's made it very clear. If I don't deal with this properly, I'm going to come back for another lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, these are some sobering facts. And the other fact is, most people on this planet are without a soul. And I don't think a lot of
Soul's been
people,
disconnected.
They have no even comprehension of what a soul is, what a soul does, what's supporting them, what's behind everything, what's behind the curtain, why are we here? And I mean, it got told me many years ago, Stephan, we're not here on a picnic. Or
Mhm.
for God's sakes, do not build your business or your life on a foundation, especially if it's shaky, if it's got holes or leaks in it. Because sooner or later in this 5D, it's going to knock everything out. So
Well, and when we're really aligned with what our soul path truly is and what our soul work is to do in this lifetime, those are the things that can't get shaken away because we're in track with our karma dharma work. So karma being what we've come into this lifetime with, also the karmas of what we've already lived in the first portion of our life, healing those roots and then bringing forward that transformational energy, like you said, reclaiming your voice and reclaiming the ability to really speak up in the areas that have needed a voice to be heard, right?
you're so right about that.
Yeah, yeah.
What fascinated me, if I may, what really fascinated me with this is the moment I took the plunge. I didn't tippy toe from 1 foot in. I'm in this reality, 1 foot in the other. I dove right in, and I remember the one night I was so emotional and I was so choked because whatever I was doing wasn't working out. I left the job that night. I went down the street. I had a glass of wine. I grabbed my journal at the time and I wrote out a couple of paragraphs. What was fascinating for me was that evening. This was 6.5 years ago. And I remember I was journaling a few of the key things in the ranges of shame, guilt. And I remember from the crown chakra, the energies coming through. I remember floating around in a coliseum. And from the soul's perspective, if you can imagine like a round circle, there was a fragment of that pie. All that energy got cut out, and energetically and karmically, it all got released and sent back to source. And I remember in my mind's eye, I'm watching all this, and I was like, no one's going to believe this. And in my mind's eye, I'm seeing myself floating in this coliseum, and there's hundreds of thousands of cupboards all over the place. And all these doors were opening up, and all these files were coming out, one after the other. And like a tornado, they sucked in towards me. And like a funnel, they got sent back to the universe. And it was just a tremendous amount of relief. And then I wound up having the awareness that I'm doing this for me and for the extension of my soul. My soul's been stuck with all this. And every time when the soul comes here, it's screaming on the inside, can you please, can you cut all this stuff away?
Mhm.
And it's humbling. You have to have the right teacher with this. I mean, I was very fortunate. I had Joseph P. Gabi assisting me with all this, because once you go in, the waters are deep. I will warn anyone right up front, the waters are deep.
Yeah.
And if someone's coming here with the master numbers, you better have a spine of steel, or you better have the ability to really buckle up and handle certain things, because it does come with a lot of responsibility. So
Completely. It's definitely not the path for the faint of hearted for sure. Yes, yes. On that note, I better complete our little couch time
please.
with Katya talk. And yes, I look forward to chatting more with you. And I know I have master numbers in my life walk in this life. So hence being drawn to doing all this work and really bringing people forward to be able to talk from these places and having a snapshot look. I mean, that's just a couple pieces looking at your chart right away and having, just doing a little bit of analysis work, to being able to see what your life walk is in this lifetime and what it looks like to really step into that work. And the beauty of stepping into the column of the Akashic records, right? All the books, all the files. I too have been there, and you can feel the eminence of just the wisdom teachings, just vibrating on all levels, and all the information that's stockpiled there. Yes, yes. All right. So thank you so much for playing with me today.
You're welcome.
Again, I'm Katya, and this is my fourth fun deep dive. And of course, I do a whole bunch of different forms of holistic work. My original is holistic coaching and counseling, somatic release therapy, going into the shamanic realms for healing, cranial sacral, as well as going into knowing thyself through cosmology, astrology, and number and frequency analysis work. So, all right,
Beautiful.
thank you so much, and we will
Pleasure.
talk more. I will take us off the recording now, and I'm going to continue talking to you for a little bit. So thank you, thank you, thank you for playing with me today.
You're welcome. Thank you.